A common question I get from friends and family and clients is, what is an effective way to have a crucial conversation? Talking to a colleague about their work performance. Talking to a parent about whether they should still be driving. Talking to a friend about how hurt you were that they didn't show up for your mom's funeral. These are just a few of hundreds of crucial conversations that many of us may find ourselves in during our lives. In this video, I'm going to share 5 key tips on how to best have a crucial conversation. And if you stay to the end, I'll offer 3 key pieces of advice on what to do if the conversation doesn't go as well as you'd hoped. First important tip: know your purpose. A crucial conversation is a conversation. What does that mean? A conversation is a two-way street where both people have something important they want to say and something that they want to have acknowledged and heard. Meaning this. So if your purpose is to try to extract an apology, if your purpose is to have them agree with you, if your purpose is to persuade them, if your purpose is to make them do something or not do something, then your crucial conversation might be at risk. Why? Because whenever our purpose is to somehow prove we're right and the other side is wrong, or the other side hasn't done what they're supposed to do, we may find ourselves in trouble. So instead, I think a really useful purpose for any kind of crucial conversation is to share how it is you see something or what's important to you, and to understand their perspective. So in that sense, crucial conversations are conversations because they're both opportunities for each of us to learn something that matters to the other side, and then to hear the other side and find some way to move forward together in a shared way. And so related to that, if you want your crucial conversation to go well, it's going to take some significant preparation. I could talk extensively on how to prepare for one of these crucial conversations. I want to give you just a few important pieces. First, know what it is you know and what it is you don't know. So that is to say, for any important assertive statement that you want to make, you want to think about what is the conclusion, what is the piece of information I want to convey, and then what did I observe? What is the set of facts or information that led me to that conclusion? That's how you're going to be effectively assertive in the conversation. But also, you want to think about what are the things you don't know and what questions might you like to ask the other side. Also, as part of your preparation, think about what are the identity questions that might get triggered by virtue of this conversation. So for example, if you're talking to a parent about possibly giving up their driver's license, one thing you could be pretty sure of is that question is going to trigger in that parent their own sense of identity as a mature adult who is still able to get around and take care of themselves. So going into the conversation with all of the reasons why you think their eyesight is too bad or their ability to react quickly in a traffic situation is too impaired is going to be incredibly triggering. So you want to really think about what does the world look like from their perspective and what information you might not have that they might have. Third, and this is really important, is to be direct. So one of the things that I have found in my own coaching work and in my own counseling work with clients around this is they often back into a difficult issue. They are leaving what they think are clear indicators of what they want the other side to understand. But from a third-party perspective, pretty indirect. It's like a bunch of breadcrumbs. What that means is you don't want to say something like, "So, how do you think last week's conference went?" when you think the conference went really poorly. Because in some sense, there's a passive-aggressive nature to that. Moreover, if they say something like, "I think it went really well," now you've kind of back-ended yourself. So I'm going to give you an example of what I would say is avoidance. I was working with a client who actually was working on a whole series of crucial conversation topics, but for some reason we ended up on a very personal one involving his significant other at the time. And this particular issue was taking long road trips and listening to music that she liked and that he absolutely despised. And the way he would deal with this would be like, let's try some different channel. And he would change the channel. And then like 15 minutes later, she'd be moving back to the channel that she liked. And he was perplexed as to why she didn't get the message. And I thought to myself, well, you didn't say you don't like this. You just said, let's try something different. You didn't even say you liked what you were changing to, right? So this kind of passive-aggressive approach usually doesn't work that well. Fourth, a very important part of any crucial conversation is activating your own active listening skills. So in my work, we often say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so to go into a crucial conversation, really ready to deploy active listening skills and with a stance of curiosity. If you can't be curious, you are not ready for a crucial conversation. And when I say curious, I mean curious about what does this world look like for, let's say, the elderly parent trying to confront that they might not be able to drive anymore? Or what does this look like for the person on the other side of the immigration issue who is very determined that they're right and you are wrong? So moving to a stance of really good listening is important. And if you struggle with that, one tip that I love to suggest is that you re-enroll yourself, at least for those parts of the conversation, away from somebody who's just sharing your thoughts and into somebody whose main task is to understand the other side. So I'll often say something like, pretend you are a news reporter who has to write a long-form piece for, let's say, The New Yorker or Atlantic Monthly. And so you deeply need to understand how this person is seeing things, because otherwise you're going to write a pretty boring story. Fifth, managing emotions. So what does that mean? By dint of the conversation being a hard and touchy one, there's a fair degree of likelihood that both you and the other person will feel a lot of emotions in the conversation. Notice what I'm not saying. I'm not saying be rational. I'm not saying don't be emotional. I'm not saying don't show emotions. That would be really bad advice, because by dint of the fact that you're finding this a challenging conversation, it means there are a lot of emotions coming up for you, and there's probably a lot of emotions coming up for them. So managing means knowing when you should share the emotions, knowing your full set of emotions, and sharing them in a way that is different from blaming them, that is different from attributing the emotions to them. And when they're sharing their emotions, right, they might not do it so skillfully. They might not say something like, when you say this, it makes me feel sad, hurt, and confused. They may say something like, you're treating me like a child now that you don't want me to drive anymore. But what that really is an emotion, right? They feel disappointed and betrayed by your sense that they shouldn't have a driver's license anymore. So let me just share a few tips with you, because my experience is if you have a crucial conversation, you'll have a way that you want it to go, but almost always it won't go perfect, right? Because it's a hard conversation. Here are 3 things you can do if the conversation doesn't go as well as it could. First, be gentle on yourself. Difficult conversations, crucial conversations, are really, really hard. And having successful ones, right, it's a little bit like any of you, if you know baseball, right, and you know the very best batters have an average of maybe like 350 or 400. So just to be clear about what that means, it means 35 to 40% of the time, they are getting up at bat and getting a hit and getting on base. That means most of the time, they are not. And I would say if you have anything approaching to a 35 or 40% success rate in your crucial conversations, you are an all-star. Second, even if a conversation doesn't go as well as they could, right, you can learn from it. So how do you do that? really taking some time and saying, what did I do specifically that worked well, that the next time I have a crucial conversation, I'd want to repeat? And then secondly, what could I do differently the next time? I want you to notice two things about this advice. First, it's not what that I did wrong. What I did wrong doesn't have anything constructive to it. What you could do differently actually is forward-looking. And secondly, it's not what did they do wrong, because at the end of the day, we can't change them. We can only change you. Lastly, consider what you learned from this conversation. Now, notice the embedded assumption. It means even if the conversation has gone poorly, you have learned something, maybe about yourself and maybe about them. And that brings me back to the client I was talking about earlier, the client who, in that passive-aggressive way, would change the radio channel, only to have the significant other change it back. So ultimately, this client who was really anxious about being direct about the changing of the radio channel actually did say to the significant other that he wasn't actually excited about some of the music she wanted to listen to and wondered if there was a way that either they could find some music or some podcast or something they both wanted to listen to, or if not, whether they could actually at least share the listening time, right? And I was super proud of this client, even though maybe some of you are thinking this is a trivial topic. For this client, bringing this up felt really fraught and really scary. Well, the conversation didn't go brilliantly because ultimately the significant other said, yeah, why don't we listen to your channel for like an hour or so? Or alternately, you could actually put in earbuds and listen to whatever you want to listen to. This was not what my client was hoping for, but boy, did he learn something really important. He had been dating this person for a significant amount of time. And the fact that the concession was put earbuds into your ears, or you could listen to your channel for 1 hour while I listen to my channel for the other 7 hours, made him realize that this was probably not the person he wanted to spend his life with. This was painful and sad, but it was really good for him to learn this now rather than later. Just to be clear, right, it wasn't about the radio channel. It wasn't about what kind of music we like. It was the sense that even when he raised something, there was not an immediate, let's problem solve, or maybe we could share the time. It was more like, you're going to get about 1/8 of whatever is important to you in this relationship. And that's the message he took away. There was almost no sense of understanding, no apology, no sense of let's work this out together. And so even though it wasn't what he hoped for, right, both he and me considered it a good outcome. Hopefully these tips will be helpful to you, but if you struggle around raising crucial conversations topics, and even if you don't, I want to encourage you, watch this next video, which is what is the difference between assertive and aggressive communication. And please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit like, and ring the bell. I'm Bob Bordone, and thanks for negotiating together. Okay, you want to keep watching? Click the next video.